Good morning, everyone. I'm in Vila de Barquinha, and I'm probably butchering that Portuguese little town. It was delightful last night. Getting myself ready to walk to Tamar this morning, and I had a restless night. I was just doing a little bit of research because Tamar is a place of a very powerful and, I don't know if ancient is the word, but an anchor place for the Templars. So in Portugal, when the king said yes to the Templars being here, while there are many places, Tamar has preserved a huge place they call the Convent of Christ. And I realized I was a little bit restless because of my own impressions of the Templars, of knowing about the Crusades, of knowing about the power and the wealth, and how they seemed to wield a force that wasn't always for the highest good. But there's much more to it, and Portugal seems to have a high esteem for the Templars because they came about before they were approved in the Catholic Church. They came about as the poor knights of Christ to protect pilgrims on their way to the Holy Land. I know that, and you probably knew that as well. And in that protection, there was a lot of warring going on. This was in probably the early 1100s. Now, if you know your history, while Christianity obviously has many different traditions and forms, one of the biggest splits happened just before that in the late 1000s, and where the East and the West split over one phrase in the creed and over some political differences as well. So there's all of this change happening in Christianity, and then you have different ethnic groups coming in and warring over the Holy Land, like always, right? And also striving to take territory in Europe. But the Templars must have been so esteemed and so good at what they did, they became known as a military order. And as I was reading more about the history last night, to my surprise, Bernard of Clairvaux, the one that's really responsible for the large reform and solid presence of the Cistercians. So the Benedictines were started by Saint Benedict, and the Cistercians are a monastic expression of that. And it was a little fuzzy to me. I always thought he started the Cistercians, but it looks like he may have entered the Cistercians and led a reform. Now, a little side note about him. He wanted to enter the monastery to pursue, greater communion with God and greater solitude, but he convinced about 30 of his friends and relatives to join him at the very same time. He had to have been an incredibly charismatic human being. He's very responsible for the Pope being elected and the seat going to France for a while. He is the one that wrote the document that got the Templars accepted as an order into the church in the 1100s, and not speaking so highly in what he wrote, he said that he thought it was very important that the enemies of God be killed, and that there be somebody there to kill any enemies of God. So that's not a great part of his history, but he is known for a lot of really good things too. So I'm on my way walking to the Convent of Christ, and while I feel a little uneasy about entering into all of that history and the energy of that domination, the domination that comes from my own church of childhood and of great blessing and growth, it's a chance for me to once again say I'm sorry on behalf of Catholics, on behalf of Christians who have used faith to oppress anyone in any way. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we have done that and that we were so narrow and short-sighted. But it was also a chance for me to think about the original charism of the Templars of protecting pilgrims. What would it be like if you went on a pilgrimage and there were people around with swords and with power who were protecting you on your way? Think about the spiritual import of making a journey for the sake of the highest good and being in this physical realm protected for it, protected by people you didn't even know. I feel very protected on the Camino by the baristas I'm meeting and the hotel managers I'm meeting and the hostel managers I'm meeting and the people along the way going, buen camino. So bom camino here in Portugal and buen and in Spain. I feel very protected, but I was getting myself imagining yesterday the playfulness that could come into our lives if we seek out, how can I see everyone on a pilgrimage, everyone on a journey, and how can I not only accept their journey or understand their journey or respect their journey, but actually protect them with my words, with my actions, with my attitudes. How could I have that original charism of being a spiritual knight or a spiritual warrior and protect my fellow human beings on their spiritual journey? And this can happen whether someone is proclaiming they're on a spiritual journey or whether they're not proclaiming it. Because the very fact that we're alive, that we are striving to surface our deepest longings and urgings and seek fulfillment of them, that we're seeking to know God's will, that we're seeking to do God's will, whatever our language may be around it, we're on that journey and we can protect each other. We can protect each other by emotionally providing the spaciousness that someone doesn't feel squashed or oppressed. We can protect them psychologically by being gentle and compassionate in how we care for each other. We can protect them physically oftentimes. So let's see how we can protect each other's journey today by a look, by a word, by an action. I just think it's an awesome thing of just like kind of jumping out with my sword to protect somebody that's before me because I see them on a spiritual path. Let's make this joyful. I need to make it joyful walking into a town that's going to have probably a heavier presence to me and my own sensibilities. So thank you for walking this way with me. Let's be spiritual warriors and knights today. And I send you so much love. Mwah.